Focus report, and this Friday we look into a dark yet little known chapter of France and Cameroon's common history. In the 1950s and 60s, the French army fought alongside Cameroonian government forces against members of the leftist UPC movement, which it labelled as rebels. Historians say that during this little known war, tens of thousands of people were killed. France 24 talked to a crucial witness who saw massacres being committed. A report carried out in France and Cameroon by Nicolas Germain, with Marcela Moko, Zigoto Chaya, Melina Huet and Sylvain Rousseau.
In a remote village in southwest France, this former French soldier took part in a war that few people, even in France, have heard of. One which has been described as the beginning of France-Afrique, the murky relationship between Paris and its former African colonies. Bardet was sent to Cameroon between 1962 and 1964 in the western Bamileke region. He was a helicopter pilot and witnessed several massacres committed by the Cameroonian army. It was strongly supported and funded by France.
That's a Bell 47 G2, 280 horsepower, a very small helicopter, just 3 seats.
The Cameroonian army, backed by France, targeted members of the UPC, a party that opposed President Amadou Ahidjo. The UPC believed that after independence in 1960, Ahidjo was simply France's hand-picked puppet. For the first time on television, Max Bardet describes the atrocities he saw.
Soldiers of the Cameroonian army were ordered to kill the men, but not the women. Women would be left to agonize. Most had been wounded by AK-47 bullets. But not only that, what I want to say is that they would also cut off their breasts and disembowel them.
During these massacres, Max Bardet was accompanied by a French officer.
The officer who was with me was here to be on the lookout and make sure no one would witness what was going on, that no one could ever testify or accuse France and the few members of the French military still present in Cameroon of being involved in what was going on.
Bardet says he understands why many Cameroonians remain bitter.
If I were them, I would be angry with the French or with France. Yes, really, I would.
A new book on this topic called The War in Cameroon has just come out in France.
The French carried on with their military activities, albeit discreetly. They would manage or supervise operations rather than having a massive military presence on the ground. This way they could crack down on the UPC nationalists, that's the Union of Cameroonian People, but also on all those suspected of supporting this movement, the so-called subversive elements. This repression, this crackdown was so discreet it was like a secret operation. Indeed, back in France, no one was aware of the extent of these military operations. But not only were these operations off the radar, they were also extremely violent. In the 1960s, you had entire villages being destroyed in air raids. People were being forced into camps surrounded with barbed wire. Torture was becoming systematic.
The revelations in this book come after those published in the first edition, and they could have legal and financial consequences for France.